Hey guys, this is Elvis and welcome back to another video. So this will be a new video series called How to Lose Fat by Doing Cardio, and in this video we'll talk about specifically running. So each video I'm gonna choose one type of cardio, for example bike riding, swimming, running and so on. And in this video we're gonna talk about the most popular method in the world, which is running. When people want to lose weight, when people decide, okay, now it's time to lose weight, they have maybe a little belly or something, and they decide to, okay, now I want to lose weight, so I'm gonna go out for a run. That's what usually people do, because when they think, okay, I'm gonna sweat a lot, I'm gonna lose all this fat. But first of all, let me make this clear. Sweating is not the same as fat loss. Sweating is basically just you sweat out the water that's inside your body. That is all that is. How do you lose fat is completely different. So let's answer this first basic question. Does running actually works for you to lose fat? And I would say yes, but only because it helps you to create caloric deficit in your day, because the caloric deficit is the only actual way to lose fat and also some muscle. So let's try to work up things slowly so you can understand. So basically, you can't lose only fat, you will lose some muscle as well. So how do you actually lose fat correctly? That is the real question, I think, and one of the things that you need to do is add resistance training at least, I would say, 3 to 4 times a week, a minimum. That's minimum, because if you don't do resistance training, which can be calisthenics, which can be going to the gym or doing some types of sports or weightlifting, powerlifting, or anything that involves resistance training, basically, and your body can be a resistance too, so calisthenics definitely are a great way to do that as well. And if you do the resistance training, that means your body understands that it needs the muscle. So let's say you do the bench press twice a week, and you need muscle for that, obviously, and when you're in caloric deficit, the body needs the energy from somewhere, and you have some fat stored in your body, let's say in the belly and in arms. Obviously the body fat is everywhere, but most of it's in the belly most likely, and the fat is stored there. And if you are in caloric deficit and you're using the muscles all the time of the resistance training, the body understands, I can't take the muscles away from this guy, because I know he's gonna use that muscle twice a week for the bench press, for example. And that is the reason why you're gonna lose mostly just fat, because it has no other option but to take the stores away, the energy stores away from the fat, but not the muscle. So the muscle will be preserved that way. Also, the high protein diet definitely helps, but the most important thing is actually be consistent in training when you're in caloric deficit, because that is the only way to actually preserve a lot of muscle mass when you are in caloric deficit. So training is necessary, but also the most important thing obviously is the caloric deficit. You have to create a caloric deficit in a day to actually lose fat. Because if you don't have the caloric deficit, that means you have caloric surplus, which means you will gain weight. Because let's put up an example. So you have 2000 calories as your daily expenditure that you use, 2000. And if you eat 2500 calories a day, you have 500 calories that are not used. So where it's gonna be? Where they're gonna go? They're gonna go in the fat storage, pretty much. That's where they're gonna go, because it has no other place to go. You didn't use it. So the body is very smart, and it's gonna just store those fats for later. So basically that is that. And if you want to lose that fat storage, you basically have to create the deficit. So let's say the same example, you have 2000 calories a day, your energy expenditure, that is what you use for the day, and you eat only 1500 calories. So the body doesn't have enough energy to do the things that it's supposed to do, so it takes out the fat storage that you have saved, and those 500 calories it gets it from there, and you are losing that way. You're losing fat and also a little bit of muscle, but you will do a lot of tactics to preserve obviously the muscle mass, so you look great because when you lose all the fat but you still have the muscle, you will look lean and very strong, and that is the goal what we are aiming for here. So that is the basic general guideline in losing fat. So the question is, cardio a great way to lose fat? I would say yes, but it definitely has its positives and negatives. So we're gonna talk about the positives first. So running. Is running a great cardio exercise? I would definitely say it's great exercise. It has one of the biggest positives of running is saving time, because if we compare it to cycling, I think the running is one of the best cardio exercises there is, but it comes with some flaws as well. But if we compare it to the bike riding or swimming or any other cardio type of exercise, we can actually see that running saves you up a lot of time. So if you're a person who doesn't have a lot of spare time to spare, I think running is a way for you to get the cardio in, because on average, if you weigh, let's say 100 kilograms, you're gonna burn 100 calories for each kilometer that you run. That is the average, how you can calculate how much calories do you burn per cardio session. So let's say I'm 100 kilograms right now and I run 10 kilometers, which is around 6.2 miles if I'm not mistaken. And that means in that cardio session I will burn 1000 calories, which is quite a lot, but also it's quite a lot on your total day expenditure, because usually a person, a male who is over 6 foot like me, definitely burns around 2000 to maybe even 3000 calories a day just by doing almost nothing, only the resistance training. So 1000 calories is quite a lot. It's almost like 25 to 50% increase in your total daily expenditure, which is TDEE for short. Another positive for running is that you burn a lot of calories if we look at the time, so it's very efficient way to burn calories. Also, the negative part of the running is it's very hard on your knees and your back, especially if you're heavyweight. If you're already heavy, it's definitely not the type of cardio you should be doing too often. Everybody can run once a month and nothing will happen, obviously, but let's say if you start to do it very often, let's say you do it 3 times a week, the issues can start to rise. Let's say you do it 4 times, 5 times a week. The more you do, the higher the chance for injury occurs. So basically, you should try to manage the rest and the training enough. You should manage your rest and training so that you can avoid injuries. And usually, I think a lot of guys who like to do a lot of cardio and sports in general usually overdo it. I myself had stress fracture last year just from running, because I'm quite heavy guy and I did a lot of running, and that costed me. I had a stress fracture in my feet, and that means basically that my bones actually cracked just because from all the running. I did the marathon, which is quite an accomplishment obviously, but at the same time it's very hard on your joints, bones and ligaments. So you have to think about it, how much can I run? What I suggest to do personally for you guys, especially if you're very heavy, then you can run, let's say twice a week. You can run on Monday and maybe then on Friday. So you have 3 whole days as a rest, 72 hours, that's a lot of a rest. And then you have 2 more days after the second session. And if you really want to do a lot of cardio, you can just walk. That is not so heavy on joints. It's very easy and chill exercise, so you can just plug in some walking sessions in between the running sessions, so your body gets a rest. It's actually a great way, as they call it, it's an active recovery, active rest, and that way your body gets the rest, but you also burn some calories, get some fresh air. So walking is a great way to burn calories also, but it has the downside that it takes a lot of time, because let's say me, for example, I can walk in a normal pace, not rushing or not power walking or anything. I can walk 6 kilometers in 1 hour. And if I'm right now weighing about 94 kilograms, that means I would burn around 95, let's say, kilograms times 6, it's around 500, little over 500 calories in an hour, and that's not a lot. You spend 1 hour and you burn around only 500 calories, which is, let's say, a Snickers bar pretty much. So yeah, it is not a lot, but if your diet is on point, it's definitely gonna help you lose weight. So you have to manage those calories very strictly, and you have to figure out for yourself what type of cardio and how often you should do it. But my recommendation for you is to do it twice a week. If you do it more, it's the injury possibility starts to arise, and you have to be very careful, because most likely most guys don't stretch, don't do any warm-up exercises or cool-down exercises. Most guys don't do it. I know it personally, so let's not kid ourselves around here. Obviously, I know you're not gonna do the warm-ups and cool-downs, and even if you do, are you gonna do it always? Are you gonna do always, okay, I have to do it, but do you actually do it after every workout and before every workout? Do you? And that is the question. Most likely the answer is no. Yes, some guys are very responsible and they do it, but that is not a lot of guys. When I used to go to the gym, I didn't see basically not a single person who does warm-ups or any cool-down exercises like stretching. Yeah, they do warm up with, let's say, bench press. They do warm up without the weights. They do a small weight just to get the blood flowing in the muscles, but that is quite a bit different than actually stretching and doing a different type of warm-up, if you know what I mean. But yeah, when you're running and doing cardio in general, you are creating a bigger possibility of calorie deficit. But the important thing to note is, don't eat those calories back. There's actually two things. One of the thing is, don't eat those calories back, and the second thing is, don't always trust what your sports watch or maybe your phone or the application in your phone says, that let's say you run 10 kilometers and you burn 1,500 calories. The phone app says so you think, okay, 1,500 calories, so I can eat around 1,200 more in the day, and I'm still gonna create a 300 calorie deficit in the day. But the problem is that usually these apps overestimate how many calories do you burn. So 1,500, that's just now not possible if you're not very heavy, like overweight. So the rough estimation is, like I said, 1 kilogram for each kilometer of your body weight is 1 calorie. So basically, if I weigh 100 kilograms, then I will burn 100 calories in 1 kilometer. So, and I would say, if you want to be super short, if you want to make sure you're definitely creating a deficit, which is important, you can even get this number cut down by 10 or 20% just to be safe. So let's say I do 10 kilometers of cardio, and I supposedly burn 1,000 calories, so I'm just gonna type it in my app or whatever, where I'm counting my calories, or in my head gonna remember that I burned around 800 calories. So I'm being safe, so I know, okay, 800 is for sure that I burned, and now I can eat maybe 500, 400 calories, so that I can get my protein in and some carbohydrates just to get refueled for the day, and I will be fine. So creating a deficit is the must-have for the day. So now you know how often you should run and how to manage your calories, but there's the question, how much should I run? Should I do 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10? So how much should I run? Or maybe in miles, 2 miles, 5 miles. So how long should I run? I would recommend to not focus too much on the distance, but actually the time that you run. So let's say I'm gonna focus on 40 minutes, 45 minutes of running and not focus on the distance. So let's say my goal is to run 45 minutes and that's it. Just do the time and you're good to go. How much you will run, it doesn't really matter that much. It's all about the time that you are running. And another important thing is your heart rate. So how many beats per minute do you have when you're doing the cardio? You can't do cardio when you're running in full speed all the time and your heart is beating. It may even be hurting or your lungs are hurting because you're going so hard. You need to ease up a little bit in cardio sessions. Actually, your pulse should be 120 to 145 beats per minute. That is my calculation. Obviously for me, some people may be a little bit different numbers. So let's take the classic example, which is your cardio pulse should be 2. Let's take the number. So your beats per minute should be, let's take the classic example, 220 beats per minute minus your age. Let's say you're 20 years old and 220 minus 20, that is 200, and now you have the number, take 70% of that, which is 140, and that should be your beats per minute in the cardio session, the average. So don't go over the number. So the problem usually is I don't have the monitor, I don't have the belt or the strap on for checking out my pulse, or I don't have the watch. I would recommend actually to buy one so you can track what your pulse is when you're doing cardio. But let's say a little light, like if you're breathing a little heavy, it's okay, I think. Then that means your pulse should be pretty decent. If you can talk with another person when you're doing the cardio, it seems like it would be in a decent range. But if you can't talk, if you're feeling completely like, if you're breathing extremely heavy and you can't even talk to another person in the session, that means you're going way too hard and you should slow down the pace. For some people the pace even will be just simple walking, especially if you go incline uphill. Even I myself, if I go on the hill and it's very steep hill, I usually walk and I still have a 130 beats per minute pulse. When you're doing the running cardio session, you should focus on your pulse and the time that you're doing cardio. I suggest doing 30 to 1 hour cardio sessions. If you really love running, you can do a little bit more, but don't go overboard. And twice a week seems like a good start, and you can figure out if you need more cardio sessions per week. But at the start, I think twice a week is a very good guideline to go by. It's same with the weights and resistance training. I usually do each muscle group twice a week because your body needs the rest, and 72 hours after each muscle group works very good, excellent way. And the same I would think is for cardio, because you're still using a lot of muscles and they need rest. Another question that usually arises is cardio in general, and now we're talking about specifically about running, is that preventing you from building muscle or maybe even burning off the muscle while you run? And I would say definitely no to that question. The only way for you to burn muscle by doing cardio is if you have some huge calorie deficit and you don't do any resistance training. Because if you do a huge calorie deficit, your body will not only take the fat storages that you have for the energy, but it's also going to use some muscle because the deficit is too huge. And also there's a lot of other downsides by doing a huge caloric deficit, which we're going to talk about maybe in some other video. But basically never do too huge of a deficit, because it can make a ton of problems basically, and you have to be very careful. So the deficit you create should be around 100 to 500 calories a day. Don't go more, there's no need to. You have to understand that this is a long-term change, this is long-term goal. You can't do it fast. If you try to do it fast, you're actually gonna make it even longer, and you're gonna create a lot of problems which which you will pay for in the long run basically. So definitely don't rush. You have to understand that this is a long-term goal and nothing happens fast. You had a long time to build up the fat as a storage in your body, and it will take a long time to actually burn it off as well. It depends obviously how high your body fat percentage is and so on, but for most people it will take quite some time. It doesn't happen in 1 week or 1 month. It takes a lot of time, and it depends on your body composition as well. Do you have a lot of muscle? Do you have a lot of muscle or you don't, and so on. But that's the general idea. And I would say definitely the muscle doesn't get burned if you have a low calorie deficit and you don't do too long cardio sessions and you have very high protein diet, you have the diet on check, you will not burn any muscle at all. Because I'm doing quite a lot of cardio myself. Those who follow me on Strava and so on see that I do a lot of cardio. I post it on my Instagram as well, my cardio sessions, and I do a lot of cardio, guys, and I haven't lost any muscle by doing so. But you have to know what you're doing and how much you're doing and why you're doing it as well. So just have a purpose, just have your plan, figure it out, and you will be fine. But don't do it too much, and then you will be fine. Your muscle won't get burned. Running also benefits you in other areas as well, like let's say for example it lowers your blood pressure, which is very important. You have to consider things like that as well. Don't just think about the muscle and the way you look. Think about health and lowering your blood pressure. Improving your heart rate, make your heart more healthy. All these factors are extremely important to consider. It's not always about the muscle. It also improves your cardiovascular endurance, which is great. Let's say you want to do a lot of pull-ups and after the set if you feel extremely fatigued, let's say you're out of breath, that means your cardio is not extremely strong. That means your cardio game basically should be improved. Because if your cardio is very good, if you're very strong in endurance, in cardiovascular endurance, you usually will be fine after sets like that. If you go high reps, high in endurance, and your cardio game is on point, you should feel quite good after the sets. So there's always things like that to consider as well. Okay guys, so I think I answered most asked questions. The frequent ones that usually come up. I saw a lot of guys asking me to do a video on cardio, how should I do it, how often should I do it, and so on, and these are the answers for you, especially for running, but we're going to focus on different types of cardio in another video. I will answer some maybe frequent asked questions in those videos as well, and maybe focus a little bit on different aspects of the cardio, but that is basically the general guideline, the basic information that you need to go by. And hopefully this guys helps, because it's very important information and you should keep in mind that. And hopefully, yeah, it helps you. And leave a comment in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about running, and do you do any running, and what are your thoughts about it, and what you like to see in the next video. So yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I see you guys in the next video.